I had barely taken my first sip of morning coffee when I heard the sharp, furious rhythm of someone stomping up my driveway. Through the window, I caught sight of Brenda Hutchinson, our ever-dramatic HOA president, brandishing her phone like a weapon as she snapped photos of my front steps from every angle imaginable. Her face was twisted into that signature look of outraged authority she wore whenever she thought she'd uncovered a fresh neighborhood offense. Moments later came the pounding on my door, 3 harsh knocks that sent a sting through my healing surgical incision. I opened the door carefully, leaning on my cane for balance. "This monstrosity has to go," she declared without so much as a greeting, thrusting a citation form inches from my face. "This handrail is both a safety hazard and a visual disgrace to our community. You have 48 hours to remove it, or you'll be fined $500. I glanced at the simple aluminum handrail the city had installed only 3 weeks earlier. "Brenda," I said, "the city installed that rail. I have every permit right here." She let out a snort of contempt. "I don't care if the president himself put it in. It violates HOA Regulation 7.3b about unauthorized exterior modifications." Before I could answer, 2 city vehicles pulled up to the curb. 2 inspectors stepped out, vests crisp and official, followed by a man in a plain suit whose expression suggested he was already fed up. Brenda's triumphant smirk faltered for the first time. The entire ordeal had begun 6 weeks earlier, when I returned home after knee replacement surgery. My doctor had insisted I would need support rails during recovery. Through my physical therapist, I learned about Riverside's accessibility grant program for residents with temporary or permanent mobility limitations. The application was surprisingly simple, and within 2 weeks, the city's approved contractor had installed a sturdy, ADA-compliant handrail beside my front steps. The whole installation was meticulously documented. City Inspector Marcus Chen had personally signed off on the work, confirming it met all federal accessibility standards. The rail was powder-coated, a neutral gray that blended with my trim, extending exactly 36 inches as required. It was as discreet and functional as a handrail could be. But Brenda Hutchinson had ruled Willowbrook Estates as HOA president for 3 years, and in that time she transformed our calm neighborhood into her personal fiefdom. She patrolled the streets daily, ruler in hand to measure grass height, snapping photos of trash bins left out 5 minutes past pickup, and handing out warnings like party favors. Just last Monday, she'd fined the Johnsons because their young daughter's pink bicycle was visible from the street for more than 2 hours. Her harassment toward me began the moment she first noticed the rail. Daily letters started appearing in my mailbox, each more aggressive than the last. The first claimed the handrail disrupted the community's architectural harmony. The second invented a bizarre rule about metal fixtures longer than 12 inches. By the 5th letter, she was threatening legal action and insisting the rail posed a danger to children who might try to climb it. At the next HOA meeting, I attempted to reason with her. Standing before the board with my cane and all the official documents in hand, I explained the medical necessity and presented the city's approval. Brenda barely looked at them. "The HOA supersedes any city decisions about aesthetics within our boundaries," she said with a smug smile. "If we make one exception, the whole neighborhood will fall apart. Next thing you know, everyone will want to install whatever they please. Wheelchair ramps, grab bars, who knows?" Board member Janet Morrison shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "But Brenda, if it's medically necessary and the city approved it," Brenda's icy glare shut her down instantly. "The rules are the rules. We can't hand out special treatment just because someone claims they need something. That's what nursing homes are for." The room went still. Neighbors exchanged stunned looks, but no one dared speak. Brenda had a history of driving off anyone who challenged her, using intimidation until they either complied or moved away. Over the next week, the fines started rolling in. First, $100 for unauthorized installation, then $200 for failure to correct violation, then $500 for continued defiance of HOA authority. Each came with increasingly ridiculous explanations. One said the handrail's reflection could blind passing drivers. Another claimed it might attract teenagers to use it for skateboard tricks. I documented everything, scanning each letter, keeping detailed logs of every exchange. When Brenda confronted me at the mailbox to brag about her newest find, I recorded her declaring she planned to make an example of me and that she didn't care what some city bureaucrat thought. Then came the breaking point, a formal-looking ultimatum, printed on HOA letterhead that seemed suspiciously homemade. It demanded the immediate removal of the handrail within 48 hours, or she would place a lien on my property. She even attached a list of approved contractors for removal, every one of them owned by her brother-in-law. That afternoon, I called the city's accessibility office. The representative who answered the phone listened to my entire explanation with growing concern. When I repeated Brenda's comments about nursing homes and her threat to place a lien on my home over an HOA-compliant installation, she immediately asked me to hold while she transferred me to her supervisor. Within an hour, I had spoken with 3 different city officials, each one more alarmed than the last. The final call came from the city attorney's office. They informed me that obstructing a federally protected HOA installation was a serious violation, and they would be launching an immediate investigation. Meanwhile, Brenda spent the next day bragging to anyone within earshot about how she had finally forced the removal of that eyesore. She told Margaret Chan at the grocery store that I had folded like a cheap card table and would be ripping out the rail by morning. She even posted in the neighborhood social media group about the importance of enforcing standards and how certain people think they're above the rules. The next morning arrived with more commotion than usual. I was drinking my coffee when 3 city vehicles rolled to a stop in front of my house. Marcus Chen stepped out first, followed by another inspector I didn't recognize. Trailing behind them was a woman in a tailored business suit, carrying a formal-looking briefcase, and a quiet man in plain clothes, who lingered near the cars. Observing, Brenda must have been watching from her living room window, because she materialized almost instantly, striding across the street with her phone already recording. "This is private HOA property," she barked, although she was standing on the public sidewalk. "You have no authority here. I am the president of this Homeowners Association, and I'm ordering you to leave immediately." Marcus introduced himself calmly and explained that they were there to conduct a follow-up inspection on a city-installed accessibility feature. Brenda's complexion turned a blotchy shade of purple. "That illegal modification is being removed today," she shrieked, flailing her arms. "I'm the one in charge here, not you. The HOA rules override whatever the city thinks it can do." The woman in the business suit stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm Deputy City Attorney Sarah Williams. We've received a formal complaint regarding interference with an Americans with Disabilities Act compliant installation. We need to review the handrail and all associated documentation." Brenda physically blocked the path to my walkway. "You're not going anywhere near that house," she snapped. "I'll call the police and have you all arrested for trespassing." That was when the quiet man in plain clothes stepped forward and reached into his jacket. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm Detective Raymond Torres with the Riverside Police Department. I need you to step aside and let these officials proceed." Brenda laughed, actually laughed in his face. "Nice try," she scoffed. "Anyone can pretend to be a cop. You can't intimidate me. I know my rights. And the law says the HOA controls all property modifications within our community." She dug through her oversized purse and yanked out a stack of papers, shoving them at him. "Here's your violation notice for trespassing on HOA property. That's a $1,000 fine, due immediately. And if you don't leave right now, I'll make it 2,000. Detective Torres calmly produced his badge and ID. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for harassment, filing false claims against a protected individual, and obstructing a city operation." The expression on Brenda's face was unforgettable. Her mouth opened and closed like a beached fish as the detective recited her rights. "You can't arrest me," she sputtered. "I'm the HOA president. I have authority here. This is my jurisdiction." As the cuffs snapped shut around her wrists, neighbors began emerging from their homes. The Chens, the Johnsons, the Morrisons, and several others formed a loose semicircle on the sidewalk. Some recorded the scene on their phones. Others simply watched with thinly veiled gratitude. "This is illegal." Brenda screeched as the detective led her toward his car. "I'll sue all of you. I'll have your jobs. Don't you know who I am? I've been president of this HOA for 3 years. 3 years." Deputy City Attorney Williams turned and addressed the crowd. "The city takes interference with HOA compliance very seriously. If anyone here has experienced similar harassment over accessibility features, we encourage you to file a report with our office." Janet Morrison stepped forward immediately. She threatened to fine me $3,000 for installing a small ramp for my mother's walker. Within moments, 5 more neighbors began sharing their own stories of Brenda's bullying, especially toward anyone needing accessibility accommodations. As Brenda was driven away, still shouting her supposed authority through the patrol car window, Marcus Chen finished inspecting my handrail. "Perfect compliance," he announced loudly so the gathering crowd could hear. "This installation exceeds all safety standards." 3 weeks later, 2 letters arrived in my mailbox on the same afternoon. The first was from the HOA board, informing me that Brenda Hutchinson had been unanimously removed from her role as president after an emergency vote. Janet Morrison had been appointed interim president, and her first action was to void every fine and citation Brenda had issued in recent months. The second letter came from the city. Brenda had been found guilty of violating federal HOA protections and was fined $25,000. She was also sentenced to 300 hours of community service at the local Disability Advocacy Center and faced up to 2 years in federal prison if she violated the terms of her probation. The letter ended by commending me for standing up for disability rights and confirming that my handrail was permanently protected under federal law. The last time I saw Brenda was on the courthouse steps after her sentencing. A bland gray outfit had replaced her fashionable power suits, and her once perfectly coiffed hair hung limp around her shoulders. When a reporter asked how she felt about the $25,000 fine and the possibility of prison time, she just stared ahead hollowly and whispered, "But I was the president."